Scientists share a scary fact we don't know. Think about a huge tug of war in space. Right now, something is pulling our whole galaxy towards it. Scientists call this thing the Great Attractor. It's one of the biggest mysteries in space. About 150 to 250 million light years away, there's something so big that it's pulling our galaxy and many others towards it. The weird part, we can barely see it because it's hidden behind the center of our own galaxy. But that's not all. On the other side of space, there's another strange thing called the Boots Void. Imagine a huge empty bubble in space. If you were in the middle of it, you'd think the universe was almost empty. This is the Boots Void, also called the Great Void. It's super big, 250 million light years across. That's so big that if our galaxy was in the middle of it, we wouldn't have known other galaxies existed until the 1960s. You might think space is always empty, but it's not. The Boots Void is really empty. It should have about 10,000 galaxies in it, but we've only found 60. That's like finding only 60 grains of sand in a space bigger than the whole United States. How did this empty space happen? Some scientists think smaller empty spaces joined together like bubbles in a bathtub. But there's another idea that sounds like science fiction. What if it's not really empty? What if super advanced aliens are making it look empty? Imagine aliens so smart they can dim whole galaxies by wrapping stars in huge energy collecting shells. This could explain why the void is so round and empty. Here's one last crazy thing to think about. Everything we see in space happened 700 million years ago. The light from these space mysteries took that long to reach us. Who knows what's really happening out there now?
Story 2.
Imagine a part of you living forever, even after you're gone. Sounds like a made-up story, right? But this is real, and it's pretty amazing. There was a black woman named Henrietta Lacks who died of cancer in 1951. But part of Henrietta is still alive today, more than 70 years later. How? Let's learn about this weird but true story. Scientists use something called HeLa cells. These cells are special because they keep living and growing for a very long time. Most cells eventually die, which is why we get old, but HeLa cells just keep going. These amazing cells have been alive for decades. They help scientists test new medicines without using real people. That sounds good, doesn't it? But here's the strange part. These cells came from Henrietta Lacks, and she didn't know about it or say it was okay. Imagine parts of your body being used in labs all over the world, and you didn't even know. Here's something really weird to think about. There are more of Henrietta's cells alive now than when she was actually alive. It's like Henrietta is living on in a strange way through her cells. In labs around the world, bits of Henrietta are still growing and dividing. It's like she's kind of still alive, in a way. Henrietta Lacks died in 1951, but her cancer cells are still alive, like zombies. These zombie tumors have helped make many important medical discoveries. They've helped make vaccines and learn about cancer. Henrietta's cells have saved millions of lives. But was it right to use them without asking? The story of HeLa cells makes us think about some big questions. Is it okay to use someone's cells without asking if it helps lots of people? How do we decide what's right? As you think about these questions, remember right now, in a lab somewhere, Henrietta Lacks' cells are still alive and helping scientists learn new things. It's an amazing story that will be remembered for a long time. Interesting, but also a bit creepy.
Story 3.
Have you ever wondered if there's a secret to a happy relationship? Well, scientists think they've found a number that might help, 5 to 1. This simple idea could explain why some couples are happy while others aren't. Imagine you're in a relationship. Things seem okay, but something doesn't feel quite right. Psychologists might have figured out why, and it's all about balance, but not the kind you might expect. Here's the idea. For every bad thing that happens with your partner, you need 5 good things to keep the relationship healthy. Sounds strange, right? But let's look closer. Let's say you criticize your partner once a day. That might not seem like a big deal, But according to this research, you'd need to say at least 5 nice things or have 5 good moments to make up for it every single day. But it's not just about words, it's about experiences too. Have a bad day with your partner. You'll need 5 good days to balance it out. If not, when you think about your relationship, your brain might trick you into thinking there are more bad times than good ones. Now, think about your own relationships. How often do you say nice things compared to critical things? How many good days do you have compared to bad ones? If you're not hitting that 5-to-1 ratio, your relationship might be in trouble without you knowing it. This idea suggests that our brains remember bad things more easily than good things. One small criticism, it sticks in our mind. A compliment, we might forget it unless we hear lots of them. It's like our brains are built to notice bad things more than good things. This doesn't just affect our relationships, it changes how we see everything in our lives. So, what can we learn from this? First, don't be too hard on yourself. If you've been feeling bad about your relationship, it might not be as bad as you think. Second, try to say more nice things to your partner. And lastly, before you criticize your partner, ask yourself, have I said or done 5 nice things today?
Story 4.
Imagine typing with your thoughts, moving a wheelchair with your mind, or having a computer know if you like to joke, all without moving. This might sound like make-believe, but it's real. It's called brain-computer interface technology, or BCI for short. Here's something amazing. You can type using just your brain. There are devices that can read your brain's electricity from outside your head. No need for surgery. Just put on a special headset, think about what you want to type, and it appears on the screen. It's like mind reading, but real. It gets even cooler. Imagine being unable to move but controlling a wheelchair with your thoughts. This isn't just an idea. People are working on it right now. It's like having superpowers, but it's science. BCIS can also figure out what you're thinking or feeling. Scientists have made systems that can tell if you thought a joke was funny or if you noticed a certain word. They're not perfect yet, but they're often right. It's like a machine that can read your mind. But there's more. Scientists are also looking at other ways your body can talk to computers. They call this physiological computing and affective computing. Your heartbeat, sweaty hands, eye size, and tiny muscle movements can all be measured. Scientists are learning how to use these to guess what you're thinking or feeling. It's like your body is always sending out secret messages, and scientists are figuring out how to understand them. Imagine a future where your house knows you're stressed just by looking at you and makes the lights dim and plays calm music. Or a car that can tell you're getting sleepy and takes over driving. Or a phone that knows you're upset and holds back messages to avoid stressing you more. This technology is changing what we thought was possible, making the line between humans and machines less clear. It's exciting and amazing, but also a little scary. This is the end. This is the end. This is the end. This is the end. This is any. Imagine it's a nice summer day. You've just put flea medicine on your dog and you're going to the lake for a swim. Sounds great, right? But there's something about that flea medicine you might not know, and it's pretty shocking. When your dog swims after getting flea treatment, it can really hurt the lake's ecosystem. It's like a quiet disaster happening underwater that we can't see. Here's the crazy part. If a big dog with flea medicine swims in a lake, it can put enough poison in the water to kill half of the tiny water animals in an area as big as 8 swimming pools. And this happens in just 2 days. Think about that for a second. One dog can affect that much water and kill so many tiny creatures so quickly. You might think, someone must know about this. Well, some people do, but it's not being treated as seriously as it should be. It gets worse. This happens mostly right after you put the flea medicine on your dog, but even though it gets less strong over time, it doesn't go away completely for a month. Now think about how many dogs might swim in a lake over a whole summer. Each dog adds a little more poison to the water. It's like making a big toxic soup that keeps getting stronger. What does this mean for our lakes and the animals that live in them? It's not good. It could really mess up the whole ecosystem, starting with the smallest animals and affecting bigger ones too. But here's a big question. Why don't more people know about this? Why aren't there warning signs at lakes, pet stores, and vet offices? As pet owners, we want to take care of our dogs. But what if helping our dogs hurts lots of other animals? It's a problem we didn't mean to cause, but it's happening in lakes all around us. So next time you're about to put flea medicine on your dog, remember, your dog could accidentally hurt a lot of other animals. It's up to you to decide what to do with this information.
Story 5.
Imagine you're watching a new movie. As it starts, you feel like you know how it will end. You haven't become psychic. You've just noticed one of storytelling's big secrets. This might change how you see books and movies forever. Here's the amazing truth. There are only about 20 different plots in most stories. Yes, just 20. In all the stories in the world. That's pretty crazy to think about. You might say, no way, there are so many books and movies. And you're right. But they're all different versions of these 20 main plots. Sometimes they might mix up to 3 of these plots, but that's about it. It gets even more interesting. Think about any action movie you've seen. Take away the explosions, car chases, and funny lines. What's left? Someone who isn't expected to win must fight against a big threat with little help. They win and become famous. Sound familiar? That's because it's the plot of almost every action movie ever made. Here's something really surprising. A movie about a robot cop and an old Western movie, same plot. Different characters, different place, but at the heart, they're telling the same story. So, if all stories are basically the same, why do we keep watching? Why don't we get bored? The secret is in the characters and the setting. That's where the real magic happens. It's not about what happens, but who it happens to and where. Now, here's the really big surprise. If you know these 20 main plots, and you know about common character types and story tricks, you can guess how almost any movie will end within the first 5 minutes. Sounds like a superpower, right? But be careful. Once you know this, you can't unknow it. You might find yourself watching a movie thinking, okay, so that person is going to turn bad later. And the main character is going to doubt themselves right before the end. And you'll probably be right. Why? Because movie makers, especially in Hollywood, love to follow a formula. They've found what works and they keep using it. It's like a recipe for making money, and they use it over and over. So, next time you're watching a movie or reading a book and you feel like you've seen it before, remember, you're not going crazy. You're just seeing how stories are made. But here's a big question. Now that you know this, will it make stories less fun? Or will it help you enjoy them more, seeing how people can take one of 20 plots and make it feel new and exciting?
Story 6.
Imagine this. You're turning 65 and you find out you have Alzheimer's disease. That's really sad news. But here's something even more surprising. You didn't just get Alzheimer's. You've had it for many, many years. Scientists have found out that Alzheimer's and other brain diseases start long before you can tell something's wrong. It's like a quiet thief, slowly taking away your memories and thinking abilities without you knowing. Here's the really shocking part. If you find out you have Alzheimer's at 65, the disease probably started when you were in your early 40s. That means it's been in your brain for over 20 years. You might think, but I would have noticed something, right? Well, you probably did notice small things, but they seemed so normal you didn't worry. Maybe you sometimes forgot where you put things or had trouble remembering names. These small signs were actually the disease starting. All this time, your brain has been trying really hard to make up for the damage. It's like your brain has been running a very long race, getting more and more tired until finally it can't keep going. That's when you start to see big problems. And here's the really sad part. By the time you find out you have Alzheimer's, your brain is already badly hurt. We're not talking about a few brain cells not working right. We're talking about serious damage that can't be fixed. Your brain at this point is like a city that's been under attack for years, beaten up and unable to fully get better. This new information changes how we think about Alzheimer's. It's not just a disease that old people suddenly get. It's something that's been with you since you were middle-aged, maybe even earlier. So, what does this mean for how we deal with Alzheimer's and other brain diseases? We need to change how we think about them. Trying to treat these diseases when you can see big problems is too late. The key is finding the disease early and doing something about it. We need to look for these diseases not when people are 60 or 70, but when they're 30 or 40. We need to make better ways to find these sneaky diseases before they've had many years to hurt our brains. This isn't just something to think about. It's really important. It means we need to change how we do medical research, how we take care of people's health, and how we think about our own health. Because fighting Alzheimer's doesn't start when you're old. It starts right now, no matter how old you are.
Story 6.
Imagine a nice day at the beach in Georgia. The sun is shining and the ocean looks peaceful. But somewhere out there in the water, there's a 7,600-pound nuclear bomb. This isn't a made-up story. It's real, and it's been this way since 1958. Think about that for a second. A nuclear bomb lost in American waters has been missing for over 60 years. Here's how it happened. On February 5, 1958, during the Cold War, the U.S. Air Force was doing a practice mission. A big plane called a B-47 bomber was carrying a nuclear bomb. Suddenly, it crashed into another plane in the air. Imagine being the pilot of that damaged plane. You're carrying a very dangerous weapon. What do? The pilots made a quick decision. Worried the bomb might explode if they crashed, they dropped it into the ocean near Tybee Island, close to Savannah, Georgia. Here's the scary part. Even though the Navy looked for it right away, they never found the bomb. That's right, a nuclear weapon lost in water that's not very deep, near a big American city. Hasn't been found for over years. You might think they must have found it by now and just aren't telling us, right? But officially, they say the bomb is still out there somewhere underwater. This isn't just an old story, it's a possible danger. What if bad people found out about this and tried to find the bomb? It's scary to think about what could happen if someone found it and set it off near a city. But there's more. This isn't the only nuclear weapon the US has lost. There's even a special name for it, broken arrow. It means an accident with nuclear weapons that doesn't risk starting a nuclear war. Since 1950, there have been 32 of these accidents. The Tybee Island bomb is just one of several nuclear weapons that are still missing. So, next time you're at a beach in Georgia, or really anywhere, remember, you might be closer to a lost nuclear bomb than you think. It's a scary reminder of hidden dangers from the Cold War that are still around today.
Story 7.
Look at the device you're using right now. Your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop. It seems harmless enough, doesn't it? But what if I told you that innocent-looking gadget might be at the center of the next global crisis? Welcome to the world of rare earth metals, REMs, the unsung heroes of our modern, tech-driven world. These elements are the secret ingredients that make our smartphones smart, our wind turbines turn, and our missiles hit their targets. They're in your computer, your electric car, even in the satellites orbiting above us. Here's the kicker. Despite their name, these metals aren't actually all that rare. They're found all over the world. So what's the problem? It's not about where they exist, it's about where they're mined and processed. And that's where things get dicey. Brace yourself for this. Approximately 90% of the world's rare earth metals come from China. Not just from China, but from a handful of mines in China. Let that sink in for a moment. The backbone of our modern technology, the key to our green energy future. The critical components of our defense systems, all of it depends on a resource that's almost entirely controlled by a single country. Now, you might be thinking, can't we just mine these metals elsewhere? Good question. The answer is yes and no. Here's where it gets complicated. The US used to be a major player in the REM game. There's a mine in California called Mountain Pass that once produced most of the world's rare earth metals. But it shut down thanks to a 1-2 punch of strict environmental regulations and low REM prices, ironically, due to Chinese competition. But wait, there's more. Even if we could quickly open new mines, we'd still have a problem. Processing these metals requires specialized knowledge and facilities. And guess what? Most of the world's expertise in REM processing is in, you guessed it, China. So why should you care? Imagine this scenario: a conflict breaks out between the US or one of its allies and China. China could simply stop selling rare earth metals to its adversaries. Suddenly, production of everything from smartphones to fighter jets grinds to a halt. It's like having the power to shut off the world's technology with the flip of a switch. This isn't just about gadgets and gizmos. It's about national security, economic stability, and technological progress. The country that controls rare earth metals holds the keys to the future. But don't panic just yet. There's hope on the horizon. New mines are being developed, like the Bear Lodge project in Wyoming. Countries are waking up to the need for REM independence. But it's a race against time and geopolitics. So the next time you swipe your smartphone screen or marvel at a wind farm, remember, behind that technology lies a complex web of geology, politics, and strategy. The future of our high-tech world might just depend on some obscure elements dug out of the ground half a world away.
Story 8.
When you hear the phrase, "let's cure cancer," what comes to mind? A universal remedy? A single breakthrough that will end this devastating disease once and for all? Well, brace yourself, because the reality of cancer research is far more complex and in some ways far more daunting than most of us realize. I'm a cancer geneticist working at the front lines of this battle, and let me tell you, the phrase cure cancer is a bit like saying, let's solve crime. It sounds great, but it oversimplifies a vastly complex issue. Here's the harsh truth. Most of the time when we sequence a cancer, we're not looking for a cure. We're looking at prognosis, how long a patient has to live. It's a sobering reality that many people don't understand. You see, cancer isn't just one disease. It's hundreds, maybe thousands of diseases, each with its own unique challenges. Every type of cancer requires different research, different approaches, different treatments. It's like trying to solve 1,000 different puzzles at once, with new pieces being added every day. I work at one of the largest cancer hospitals in the world. Our motto is to make cancer history. It's inspiring, it's ambitious, and if I'm being honest, it's not entirely realistic. At least, not in the way most people think. The obtainable goal, the one we're really fighting for, is to make cancer chronic, to turn it from a death sentence into a manageable condition. It's not as catchy as cure, but for millions of patients, it could mean the difference between life and death. But here's where it gets frustrating. We're not just fighting cancer, we're fighting a system. Funding is always an issue. Regulations can slow us down. And sometimes it feels like we're trying to climb a mountain with one hand tied behind our back. Yet, amidst all this complexity and frustration, there are glimmers of hope. Take multiple myeloma, for instance. In just the past 5 to 10 years, treatment options have expanded dramatically. The prognosis still isn't great, but it's better than it was. And for patients and their families, that improvement means everything. It means more time, more memories, more chances to achieve goals and say, "I love you." It means a mother getting to see her child graduate or a grandfather meeting his grandchild for the first time. That's the reality of cancer research. We're not working towards one big cure. We're fighting for incremental victories. A few more months here, a year there, a better quality of life, a chance at a future that once seemed impossible. So the next time you hear someone say, "let's cure cancer," remember this: we're trying. We're working tirelessly, passionately, often against overwhelming odds. We may not be able to cure cancer in the way most people think, but every day we're making progress. And for the patients and families living with cancer, that progress is everything. It's hope, it's life, it's a future they might not otherwise have had.
Story 9.
Close your eyes, drift off to sleep. Sounds peaceful, right? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the dark, mysterious, and sometimes downright terrifying world of sleep. And trust me, what you're about to learn might keep you up at night. Here's the kicker. We spend about a third of our lives sleeping, and yet we barely understand what sleep is or why we do it. Let that sink in for a moment. Something so fundamental to our existence, and it's still largely a mystery. Let's start with the basics. Why do we sleep? Because we get tired. How do we sleep? Well, here's a long list of things that change in your body. What is sleep when you're not awake? Not very satisfying answers, are they? That's because sleep is far more complex and bizarre than most of us realize. But here's where it gets really creepy: sleepwalking and other parasomnias. Imagine watching someone during a sleep study. They sit up, their eyes open, they look around. You might think they're awake, but they're not. They're in a twilight state where part of their brain is active, but their consciousness is still fast asleep. Now, here's the truly unsettling part. These sleepwalkers often start fiddling with the wires attached to them for the study. They lift them, tug on them gently, touch where they're placed on their heads. But they don't pull them off. Instead, something eerily human happens. They give up. You can almost see the thought process on their face. This is too complicated. Screw it. And then they just lie back down. They don't wake up. They just close their eyes and continue sleeping. It's not that the lights are on but nobody's home. It's more like the lights are on but you aren't in there. Your body is active, your eyes are open, but the essence of you is still deep in slumber. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth is going on here? Well, here's where science steps in to make it slightly less terrifying, or perhaps more so depending on how you look at it. You see, your brain isn't a single unit. It's more like a team with different parts handling different tasks. During sleepwalking, your lower brain, the part that handles basic functions, is active. It can make you stand up, walk around, even use the bathroom. But your upper brain, the part responsible for complex thinking and your sense of self, is still offline. So when a sleepwalker encounters something complex, like wires attached to their body, their lower brain recognizes it as potentially threatening, like, say, a leech. It tries to remove the threat, but lacks the cognitive ability to figure out how. When it can't solve the problem, it essentially shrugs and goes back to sleep, satisfied that there's no immediate danger. In a way, it's like your body is running on autopilot while the pilot, your conscious mind, is taking a nap in the back of the plane. This phenomenon raises some mind-bending questions. What does it mean to be you? If your body can operate without your conscious mind, what exactly is consciousness? And perhaps most unsettlingly, how much of what we do when we're awake is really us, and how much is just our autopilot? So the next time you drift off to sleep, remember, you're not just resting. You're entering a mysterious state that science still doesn't fully understand. A state where a part of you can be awake while you are fast asleep. Sweet dreams. If you can still sleep after learning all this.
Story 10.
Imagine living in a house with invisible cracks in the foundation. You can't see them, you don't know where they are, but at any moment they could split wide open and bring your whole world crashing down. Now, imagine that house is our entire planet. Welcome to the unsettling reality of unmapped earthquake faults. Here's a bombshell that might shake you to your core. Most of the faults capable of causing large earthquakes have never been mapped. Let that sink in for a moment. We're not just talking about a few missing pieces of the puzzle. We're talking about massive, potentially catastrophic blind spots in our understanding of the earth beneath our feet. You see, faults are like stretch marks on the Earth's surface. We can make educated guesses about where they might be based on nearby faults we can see. But if a fault hasn't moved in recorded history, it's likely buried, hidden, and completely off our radar. Now you might be thinking, surely with all our advanced technology, we must have a pretty good idea of where all the dangerous faults are, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Here's the kicker. The size of an earthquake depends on two main factors: the type of fault and how long it's been since the last quake. If we don't know when the last earthquake was because we didn't even know the fault existed, we're flying blind when it comes to predicting the next big one. Remember the devastating 2011 Japan earthquake? It was far larger than any predictions. Why? Because it occurred on a fault system we didn't fully understand. It's like being sucker punched by the earth itself. But what about all that 3D seismic data, I hear you ask? Well, here's another shocker: that detailed 3D mapping. It mostly exists in areas where we're looking for oil and gas. The rest of the planet? It's terra incognita, unknown territory. And if you think that's unsettling, hold on to your hat. Some of the largest earthquakes on Earth occur far from the plate boundaries where we expect them. Take the new Madrid fault system in the central United States. We know it's there, but its detailed geometry and behavior? That's still a mystery. And without that knowledge, predicting earthquakes becomes about as reliable as predicting the lottery numbers. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about the Cascadia subduction zone. This ticking time bomb runs from Northern California to Southern Canada. It ruptures every 250 to 350 years, causing massive earthquakes. The last one? January 1700s. Do the math. We're due for another, and it could be a magnitude 9 or higher. And just to add a cherry on top of this geological Sunday of terror, let's hop over to British Columbia. There's a line of volcano calderas there, spaced out like pearls on a necklace, created as the North American plate stuttered its way over a hot spot in the Earth's mantle. It's like a grim testament to the Earth's power, written in fire and stone. So, what's the takeaway from all this? First, our understanding of the Earth's structure is far more limited than most people realize. We're not just missing a few details, we're missing entire chapters of the Earth's story. Second, earthquake prediction is far more complex and uncertain than we'd like to admit. We're not just dealing with known unknowns, but unknown unknowns, faults and risks we haven't even discovered yet. And finally, this knowledge or lack thereof has real-world implications. It affects where we build, and how we prepare for natural disasters. It's a stark reminder that for all our technological advancement, the Earth still holds many secrets and many dangers.
Story 11.
Picture this: you're lost in the wilderness, no GPS, no compass. What do? If you're like many animals, you might look up to the sky. But if you're a dung beetle, you're not just looking at the sun or the stars, you're reading the cosmic light show in ways we're only beginning to understand. Let's start with the basics. Many animals use the sun's position in the sky as a natural compass. It's like having a giant fiery arrow pointing the way. Pretty clever, right? But some animals take it a step further. They don't just look at the sun. They read how its light is polarized, a property invisible to human eyes. It's like they have secret sunglasses that reveal hidden directional information in the sky. Now, fewer animals use the moon for navigation. It's trickier. The moon isn't always out, and its position changes. But some creatures have figured it out. And then there's the dung beetle. This little guy isn't just using the moon. Oh no, that would be too simple. The dung beetle is the only known species to use the polarization of moonlight to navigate. Let that sink in for a moment. This tiny insect, best known for rolling balls of poop, is reading the night sky in ways that would make NASA scientists jealous. But wait, it gets even wilder. What happens when there's no moon? Most animals would be lost, right? Not our dung beetle friend. When the moon takes a night off, this incredible insect switches to plan C. It uses the Milky Way for navigation. Yes, you heard that right. A beetle navigating by our galaxy. It's like having a cosmic GPS system hardwired into their tiny brains. Scientists are still scratching their heads trying to figure out exactly how they do it. Now here's where it gets a bit, well, hilarious. For about 15 days in October, when viewed from the equator, both the moon and the Milky Way are out of sight for these beetles. And let me tell you, it's not their finest hour. Picture a group of drunken sailors trying to find their way home after a night at the pub. That's basically what these beetles look like during this time. They roll in random directions, turn frequently, and generally look like they've had one too many fermented berries. It's a cosmic comedy playing out right under our feet. These masterful navigators, capable of reading the polarization of moonlight and the position of our galaxy, reduced to stumbling around in the dark when their celestial signposts disappear. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. This isn't just about beetles rolling dung. It's a window into the incredible complexity of animal navigation. It shows us that even the smallest, seemingly simplest creatures can have astonishingly sophisticated ways of understanding their world. So, the next time you look up at the night sky and marvel at the moon or the Milky Way, remember, somewhere out there, a tiny dung beetle might be doing the exact same thing. And it's not just admiring the view, it's reading a cosmic roadmap that we're only beginning to understand.
Story 12.
Imagine holding a butterfly in your hand, light, delicate, barely there. Now imagine that butterfly exploding with the force of 15,000 tons of TNT. Sounds impossible, right? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the mind-bending world of nuclear physics, where the impossible becomes reality. Let's talk about Little Boy, not a person, but the code name for the nuclear bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. This single weapon decimated an entire city, left lasting scars on our world, and ushered in the atomic age. But here's the kicker. All that devastating power, it came from just over half a gram of matter being converted into energy. Let that sink in for a moment. Half a gram. That's about the weight of a butterfly, a paper clip, a pinch of salt. And yet, when that minuscule amount of matter was converted into pure energy, it unleashed a force equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT. This isn't just mind-blowing, it's paradigm-shifting. It's a stark, terrifying demonstration of Einstein's famous equation, E equal to mc2. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. That tiny C2 packs a punch that's almost beyond human comprehension. But wait, it gets even more unsettling. Little Boy, as horrific as it was, is a firecracker compared to modern nuclear weapons. Today's nukes are thousands of times more powerful. We're talking about the destructive force of millions of tons of TNT, all from an amount of matter you could hold in the palm of your hand. And here's where it gets really scary. Some of these weapons are unaccounted for, lost, missing, floating around in the world somewhere with enough power to level entire cities. It's like having a swarm of butterflies out there, each one capable of unleashing apocalyptic destruction. Except these butterflies were created by humans, and we've lost track of some of them. This reality forces us to confront some chilling questions. How can something so small contain so much destructive potential? What does it mean for our world that such devastating power can be unleashed from an amount of matter smaller than a pea? And perhaps most urgently, how do we ensure that this power never falls into the wrong hands? The story of nuclear weapons is a stark reminder of the double-edged nature of scientific progress. The same principles that allow us to unleash such destruction also hold the key to potentially limitless clean energy. It's a testament to the awesome power locked away in the very fabric of our universe, waiting to be unleashed for good or ill. So the next time you see a butterfly flutter by, take a moment to reflect. In its delicate wings, you're seeing an amount of matter that, if converted entirely to energy, could devastate a city. It's a humbling thought, a reminder of the incredible forces that shape our universe and the tremendous responsibility we bear in harnessing them.
Story 13.
Imagine a world where we could erase genetic diseases, cure cancer, or even eliminate entire species of pests with surgical precision. Now stop imagining, because that world is here. Welcome to the CRISPR revolution, where editing life itself is as easy as cut and paste. CRISPR-Cas9. It sounds like a secret military project, doesn't it? Well, in a way, it's even more powerful. CRISPR is a genetic editing tool so precise, so simple, and so cheap that it's turning the world of biology upside down. Here's the kicker. For less than $100 and with equipment you'd find in any basic research lab, you can now edit the very building blocks of life. It's like having a word processor for DNA. Want to add a gene? Type it in. Need to remove a mutation? Just hit delete. It's that simple. But wait, it gets even more mind-blowing. Researchers in China are already using CRISPR on humans to fight cancer. That's right, we're not just talking about lab rats anymore. We're talking about editing human DNA to battle one of our most feared diseases. And it doesn't stop there. HIV, genetic disorders, maybe even aging itself, they're all in CRISPR's crosshairs. Now brace yourself, because this is where it gets really wild and a little scary. Enter gene drives. Imagine if you could make a genetic change that was guaranteed to be passed on to all offspring. Now imagine using that power to wipe out an entire species. Sound like science fiction? It's not. We already have the power to potentially eliminate all mosquitoes in just a few generations. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about eradicating the carriers of diseases like malaria and Zika, saving millions of lives. But we're also talking about deliberately extinguishing an entire species. And mosquitoes might just be the beginning. This technology could theoretically be applied to any species. The implications are staggering. On one hand, we're looking at the potential to eliminate devastating diseases, feed the world with genetically optimized crops, and maybe even bring back extinct species. On the other hand, we're playing with the fundamental code of life in ways we don't fully understand. It's like we've discovered fire all over again. CRISPR is a tool of immense power, capable of incredible good but also potential harm. What if these genetic changes have unforeseen consequences? What if this technology falls into the wrong hands? The same tool that could cure diseases could also be used to create biological weapons. And let's not forget the ethical quandaries. If we can edit out genetic diseases before birth, where do we draw the line? Could we be opening the door to designer babies, with parents choosing their child's traits like they're customizing a car? The CRISPR revolution is forcing us to grapple with questions we've never had to face before. It's pushing the boundaries of science, ethics, and what it means to be human. We're standing on the precipice of a new era where the code of life itself is ours to rewrite. So the next time you hear about CRISPR, remember, it's not just about scientific breakthrough, it's about reshaping the very fabric of life on Earth. It's about the awesome power we now wield and the tremendous responsibility that comes with it. In the end, CRISPR is more than just a scientific tool. It's a mirror reflecting our deepest hopes, our darkest fears, and the endless possibilities of human ingenuity. The question is, are we ready for the reflection we see?
Story 14.
Let's set the stage. Picture a massive star, many times larger than our sun, spinning rapidly at the end of its life. As it collapses into a black hole or neutron star, it unleashes a cosmic fireworks display unlike anything else in the universe. From its poles, it fires out jets of energy so intense they make nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. These are gamma ray bursts, and they're the most powerful explosions known to science. Here's the kicker. If Earth were in the path of one of these cosmic death rays from a nearby galaxy, we wouldn't even know what hit us. One side of the planet would be instantly fried by a blast of radiation. The other side, it would face a slower but equally certain doom, as our protective ozone layer would be stripped away, leaving us exposed to the harsh radiation of space. But wait, it gets even more unsettling. There's absolutely nothing we can do about it. No warning system, no protective shield, no Bruce Willis to save the day. GRBs move at the speed of light, so by the time we detected one, it would already be game over. Now, before you start panicking, here's some good news. GRBs are incredibly rare, and the odds of one hitting Earth are astronomically low. It's like worrying about getting hit by a sniper bullet fired from the other side of the galaxy. Possible? Yes. Likely? Not in the slightest. But here's where it gets really mind-bending. Despite their rarity, GRBs might have already altered life on Earth. Some scientists believe that a GRB could have been responsible for one of Earth's mass extinction events millions of years ago. Imagine that. An explosion from across the universe reshaping life on our tiny blue planet. GRBs force us to confront some pretty heavy questions. How fragile is life in the grand scheme of the universe? Are we just sitting ducks in a cosmic shooting gallery? And if something like this could happen at any moment, how should that affect how we live our lives? But it's not all doom and gloom. GRBs also showcase the awe-inspiring power of the universe. They're a reminder of the incredible forces that shaped our cosmos and continue to influence it today. They push the boundaries of our understanding of physics and challenge us to think on truly cosmic scales. In a way, GRBs are the ultimate equalizer. In the face of such cosmic power, all our earthly concerns seem pretty small. Whether you're a billionaire in a mansion or a hermit in a cave, a GRB wouldn't care. It's a humbling reminder of our place in the universe. So the next time you look up at the night sky, remember, among those twinkling stars are cosmic snipers, capable of ending life as we know it in the blink of an eye. But instead of being paralyzed by fear, let it inspire you with wonder. Let it remind you of the incredible, terrifying, beautiful universe we're a part of.
Story 15.
In the United Kingdom, a staggering 1 in 6 people may be living with a preventable disability, fetal alcohol syndrome, FAS. This isn't a hypothetical scenario, it's a sobering reality that's been quietly shaping society more than most of us realize. Here's a statistic that might make you want to reach for a drink, but please don't if you're pregnant. According to Maguire et al.'s 1992 study, about 17% of people in the UK have fetal alcohol syndrome. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about nearly 1 in 5 people potentially living with developmental disabilities simply because their mothers drank during pregnancy. But wait, it gets more mind-bending. Prior to the late 90s, a staggering 41% of British mothers drank while pregnant. That's nearly half of all pregnancies potentially affected by alcohol. It's like a nationwide game of Russian roulette, but with brain development at stake. Now you might be thinking, surely this isn't still happening today. Well, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that prevalence rates have been falling since the late 90s when this research was published. The bad news? We're still dealing with the aftermath, and the problem is far from solved. Here's where it gets really unsettling. The numbers we have, they're likely just the tip of the iceberg. As a nurse working in Canada, I've seen firsthand how FAAs affects lives. But here's the kicker. Physicians often won't diagnose FAAs unless the mother admits to drinking during pregnancy. It's a catch-22 that leaves many cases undiagnosed and untreated. This means the real rates of FAs could be staggeringly higher than what our current numbers show. We're potentially looking at a silent epidemic that's shaping our society in ways we're only beginning to understand. Think about it. How many learning difficulties, behavioral problems, or developmental issues could be traced back to prenatal alcohol exposure? How many lives have been altered before they even began? The ripple effects are enormous, touching everything from education and healthcare to criminal justice and social services. But it's not all doom and gloom. Knowledge is power, and we're finally starting to wake up to this issue. Public health campaigns are making a difference. More women are aware of the risks, and drinking during pregnancy is becoming increasingly socially unacceptable. Yet, we're still fighting an uphill battle. Alcohol is deeply ingrained in many cultures, including British culture. Changing habits and perceptions takes time. And for those already affected by FAs, the challenges are lifelong. So what can we do? First and foremost, we need to keep spreading awareness. If you're pregnant or planning to become pregnant, the message is clear. No amount of alcohol is safe. For the rest of us, it's about supporting expectant mothers and creating a culture where it's okay, even celebrated, to abstain from alcohol. We also need to push for better diagnostic practices. If we can't accurately identify FAs, we can't properly address it. This means encouraging open, judgment-free conversations between healthcare providers and patients. Lastly, we need to support those living with FAs. This isn't just a medical issue, it's a social one. From educational support to job training, we need comprehensive programs to help individuals with FAs reach their full potential.
Story 16.
In the world of modern medicine, we often assume that a prescription is a one-size-fits-all solution. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Hidden within our genetic code lies a startling secret that could turn a simple painkiller into a potential threat. Imagine walking into a pharmacy, picking up your medication, and playing a game of Russian roulette with your body. That's the reality for many people due to the genetic variations in our enzyme production. These microscopic differences can drastically alter how our bodies process drugs, turning what should be a standard dose into either an ineffective treatment or a dangerous overdose. Take codeine, for example. This common painkiller is supposed to be converted into morphine by our bodies to provide relief. But for some people, this conversion happens at lightning speed, flooding their system with morphine and risking a potentially fatal overdose. On the flip side, others barely process the drug at all, leaving them in pain and wondering why their medication isn't working. Until recently, doctors had no way to predict how a patient would react to medication. It was a trial and error process that could have serious consequences. One geneticist experienced this firsthand when their doctor suggested rehab, mistaking their body's inability to process painkillers for drug addiction. This medical roulette affects more people than you might think. Redheads, for instance, are known to have a higher tolerance for certain painkillers due to their unique genetic makeup. It's a fact that some doctors are aware of, while others remain in the dark.
Story 17.
The silent threat lurking in our solar system is far more real and unpredictable than most people realize. While blockbuster movies often depict massive asteroids on a collision course with Earth, it's actually the smaller, stealthier space rocks that pose a more immediate danger. These miniature cosmic missiles, some no larger than a house, are incredibly difficult to spot. They slip through our celestial radar, evading detection until it's often too late. Despite their diminutive size, these asteroids pack enough punch to level entire towns, turning thriving communities into disaster zones in the blink of an eye. But here's where it gets truly unnerving. Our ability to detect these threats is severely compromised by a glaring blind spot: the sun. Asteroids approaching from the direction of our star are nearly impossible to see, masked by its blinding glare. It's like trying to spot a bullet while staring directly into a spotlight. The numbers paint a stark picture of this vulnerability. A staggering 85% of near-Earth asteroids we've managed to detect were found in just a small slice of the sky, specifically within 45 degrees directly opposite the sun. This means we're potentially missing a vast number of asteroids coming from other directions, particularly those approaching from the sun's direction. This celestial blind spot leaves us exposed to potential impacts with little to no warning. It's a sobering reminder that, despite our technological advancements, we're still at the mercy of cosmic chance. The next town-leveling asteroid could be hurtling towards us right now, hidden in the sun's glare, completely undetected by our best defenses.
Story 18.
The current state of scientific publishing and research is far from ideal, painting a sobering picture of a system that often prioritizes quantity over quality, prestige over collaboration, and novelty over reproducibility. This dysfunctional ecosystem is stifling true scientific progress and creating a pressure cooker environment for researchers. Imagine a world where scientists are trapped in a never-ending race to publish or perish. In prestigious institutions like Mayo Clinic, researchers find themselves burning the midnight oil, juggling multiple projects simultaneously. Their goal isn't necessarily to advance human knowledge, but to secure their next paycheck and avoid the career guillotine. This relentless pursuit of publications leaves little time for peer review, collaboration, or exploring seemingly insignificant anomalies that could lead to groundbreaking discoveries. The publishing industry, meanwhile, operates like a cartel, exploiting researchers' desperation. Scientists face a lose-lose situation. Either surrender their work for free, allowing publishers to profit from their blood, sweat, and tears, or pay exorbitant fees to make their research open source. This system creates a paywall between knowledge and the public, hindering the free flow of information that's crucial for scientific progress. The arbitrary prestige assigned to certain journals adds another layer of absurdity to this system. Nature, despite its reputation, published Andrew Wakefield's now discredited study linking vaccines to autism, a glaring example of how even the most prestigious journals can fall short in their quality control. This publish or perish culture discourages scientists from pursuing long-term, high-risk research that might not yield immediate, publishable results. It also disincentivizes replication studies, which are crucial for validating scientific findings but less likely to make splashy headlines. Imagine instead a scientific community where researchers are valued for the intrinsic worth of their work, not just its marketability or shock value. In this alternate reality, scientists would be free to collaborate, share information openly, and focus on understanding fundamental mechanisms rather than chasing the next wonder drug. The current system is a powder keg of misaligned incentives, threatening to explode and potentially set back scientific progress. It's time for a radical rethinking of how we value and reward scientific contributions before we suffocate the very curiosity and rigor that drive true innovation.
Story 19.
The silent apocalypse unfolding right under our noses is more terrifying than any Hollywood disaster movie. Insects, the tiny architects of our ecosystems, are vanishing at an alarming rate. Since the 1980s, we've lost a staggering 20% of insect populations worldwide. This isn't just about losing a few bugs, it's a catastrophic shift that threatens to unravel the very fabric of life on Earth.
Think back to your childhood. Remember those summer days when butterflies danced through the air, their delicate wings painting the sky with vibrant colors? Or the evenings filled with the rhythmic chirping of crickets? For many of us, these memories are becoming just that, memories.
Take Christmas beetles, once as much a part of the holiday season as tinsel and carols. In the 1990s, finding 8 of these shimmering insects in your house on a single December night was commonplace. Now, spotting even 1 or 2 has become a rare event, as if these living ornaments are being phased out of existence. Dragonflies, those ancient aerial predators that have graced our planet for over 300 million years, are becoming increasingly scarce. Their absence isn't just a loss of natural beauty, it's a warning sign of collapsing ecosystems and polluted waterways.
While most insects are disappearing, mosquitoes are thriving, a cruel twist of nature that favors disease vectors over pollinators and decomposers. This imbalance could lead to cascading effects throughout food webs, impacting everything from birds and bats to the crops we depend on for survival.
The insect apocalypse isn't just about losing the background chorus of nature, it's a crisis that strikes at the heart of our existence. These tiny creatures pollinate our crops, break down organic matter, and form the base of countless food chains. Their disappearance is a harbinger of ecological collapse on a scale we can barely comprehend.
As we walk through eerily silent gardens and drive down highways no longer splattered with bugs, we're witnessing the unraveling of millions of years of evolution. The question is, will we recognize the gravity of this loss before it's too late, or will future generations know insects only from pictures in history books?
Story 20.
Deep within our bodies, An invisible war is being waged for control of our minds. The battleground? Our gut. The combatants? Trillions of microorganisms that have evolved alongside us for millennia. These tiny manipulators have developed an insidious ability to influence our behavior, pulling the strings of our cravings and desires like puppet masters of the digestive system. Consider your uncontrollable urge for that chocolate bar or your inexplicable need for a greasy burger. What if these weren't just simple cravings, but the result of a complex biological conspiracy orchestrated by the microbes in your gut? These bacteria, it seems, have evolved to nudge our behavior in ways that benefit their own survival, often at the expense of our health. The power of these microscopic puppet masters becomes evident when we try to change our diets. Giving up sugary or fatty foods can feel like an uphill battle, as if our very bodies are rebelling against us. But push through this resistance long enough, and something remarkable happens. The cravings begin to subside. It's as if a switch has been flipped in our brains. This phenomenon might be explained by a changing of the guard in our gut microbiome. As we persist with healthier eating habits, the bacteria that thrive on junk food begin to die off. With their numbers dwindling, their influence on our behavior wanes. Meanwhile, new bacterial populations that prefer our healthier diet begin to flourish, potentially steering our cravings in a more beneficial direction. While concrete scientific proof of this gut-brain manipulation remains elusive, the logic is compelling. In the ruthless world of microbial evolution, any bacteria that could influence its host's behavior to ensure its own survival would have an enormous advantage. Over countless generations, this ability could have been honed to near perfection.
Story 21.
The final moments of life hold more mystery than we often realize. What we've long considered the boundary between life and death is, in reality, a hazy twilight zone where consciousness lingers far longer than we once believed. This revelation comes from an unexpected source, the sense of hearing. In the sterile halls of hospitals and the hushed rooms of hospice care, a startling truth has emerged. Hearing, it seems, is the last thread tying us to the world of the living, persisting even as other senses fade away. This discovery has profound implications, not just for medical care, but for our understanding of the very nature of consciousness and death itself. Imagine lying in a hospital bed, your body unresponsive, yet your mind still acutely aware of the world around you. This isn't science fiction, it's the reality for many patients in comas or on the brink of death. EEG readings have shown brain activity responding to auditory stimuli long after a patient appears completely unresponsive. It's a chilling thought, the possibility of being trapped in one's own body, fully aware but unable to communicate. This lingering awareness has led to a shift in medical practices. Nurses are now trained to assume that every patient can hear, regardless of their apparent state of consciousness. It's a precaution born from unsettling experiences, patients emerging from comas with vivid memories of conversations held at their bedside, or disturbing recollections of comments made during surgery when they were thought to be unconscious.
Story 22.
The intricate relationship between our bodies and the environment around us is far more complex than we often realize. This connection becomes starkly apparent when we consider the case of epilepsy and its potential link to atmospheric pressure changes. It's a phenomenon that challenges our understanding of neurological disorders and opens up new avenues for research and treatment. Imagine your brain as a finely tuned instrument, sensitive to the slightest changes in its environment. Now picture the atmosphere as an invisible ocean with waves of high and low pressure systems washing over us constantly. These atmospheric tides, imperceptible to most, might be triggering seismic events within the brains of epilepsy sufferers. The meticulous observations of a parent, armed with the precision of a mathematician and physicist, reveal a pattern that's both fascinating and disturbing. Seizures increasing in frequency and intensity as barometric pressure drops, then mysteriously subsiding during a period of stable high pressure. It's a correlation that's too striking to ignore. But how could changes in air pressure possibly influence the electrical storms raging in an epileptic brain? The answer might lie in the microscopic world of fluid dynamics within our skulls. Our brains float in cerebrospinal fluid, a protective bath that cushions this vital organ. Changes in atmospheric pressure could potentially alter the delicate balance of this fluid, subtly changing the brain's physical environment and potentially triggering seizures in susceptible individuals. Moreover, this atmospheric influence might extend beyond the brain itself. The human gut, often referred to as our second brain, houses a complex ecosystem of microorganisms that play a crucial role in our overall health, including neurological function. Could changes in air pressure be affecting this delicate microbiome, indirectly influencing seizure activity? This theory challenges our current understanding of epilepsy and suggests that effective treatment might require looking beyond the brain itself. It raises the possibility of new approaches to managing seizures, perhaps through environmental controls or predictive models based on weather forecasts. While more research is needed to confirm this connection, the implications are profound. It suggests that our bodies are far more intimately connected to the rhythms of our planet than we previously thought. For those living with epilepsy, it offers a new perspective on their condition and potentially new ways to predict and manage seizures.
Story 23.
In the microscopic world of proteins, a terrifying rogue agent lurks, one that turns the building blocks of life against us in a way that defies our understanding of biology and medicine. These are prions, and they represent one of the most chilling threats to human health that we've ever encountered. Imagine a single misfolded protein, an aberration so small it's invisible even to our most powerful microscopes. This twisted molecule becomes a template, forcing other healthy proteins to contort into the same malformed shape. It's like a molecular zombie apocalypse spreading through the brain with ruthless efficiency. The result? A cascade of protein misfoldings that build up into amyloid plaques, turning the brain into a battlefield of neurodegeneration. This isn't a slow decline, it's a relentless assault that leaves no survivors. From the onset of symptoms, the clock starts ticking, and within 2 years, death is inevitable. What makes prions truly nightmarish is our profound lack of understanding. We don't know what causes them. We can't explain how they trigger the misfolding cascade. We haven't even fully mapped their structure. This invisible enemy could theoretically strike anyone at any time without warning or apparent cause. By the time symptoms appear, memory loss, personality changes, impaired coordination, the prions have already waged a silent war in your brain for months or years. At this point, you're facing a terminal diagnosis with no hope of a cure. The last 6 months of life are often marked by rapid cognitive decline, loss of bodily functions, and intense suffering. But the horror doesn't end there. Prions are notoriously resilient, capable of surviving extreme conditions that would destroy most pathogens. They can persist in the environment for years, resistant to heat, radiation, and chemical disinfectants. This means they're not just a personal tragedy, they're a potential public health catastrophe. And yes, they're infectious. While rare, prion diseases can be transmitted through contaminated surgical instruments, certain medical procedures, or even consumption of infected tissue. It's a sobering reminder that sometimes the most terrifying threats come not from outside invaders, but from the very building blocks of our own bodies gone horribly awry.
Story 24.
The world of cancer research is filled with unsettling mysteries, and perhaps none is more chilling than the phenomenon of cancer recurrence years after a patient is declared cancer-free. This medical enigma challenges our understanding of the disease and raises disturbing questions about the nature of cancer itself. Imagine being told you're cancer-free, only to have the disease resurface years later like a dormant monster awakening. The conventional wisdom suggests that microscopic cancer cells, undetectable by our most advanced imaging techniques, lie in wait, biding their time before launching a full-scale assault on the body. But this explanation has a glaring flaw. The timeline simply doesn't add up.
Cancer cells are notorious for their rapid division. If these hidden cells were truly present, logic dictates they should reappear as detectable tumors within months, not years. This discrepancy points to a more insidious possibility, one that lurks in the very fabric of our cellular makeup. Enter the theory of precancerous cells. These are the sleeper agents of the cellular world, outwardly normal but harboring a deadly potential. They're like ticking time bombs scattered throughout the body, each missing just one crucial mutation to transform into full-blown cancer. The process of cancer development is not a single catastrophic event, but a series of genetic mishaps. Imagine a cell as a lock and cancer as the key that opens it. Each genetic mutation is like turning a tumbler in that lock. Precancerous cells might have 3 out of 4 tumblers aligned, waiting for that final fateful turn.
This theory paints a disturbing picture of our bodies as battlegrounds, where countless cells teeter on the brink of malignancy. Even after successful cancer treatment, these primed cells remain, silently accumulating the final mutations needed to trigger a new outbreak of the disease.
The implications are profound and unsettling. It suggests that being cancer-free might be an illusion, that the seeds of future malignancies are already sown, waiting for the right conditions to germinate. It challenges our very concept of what it means to be cured of cancer.
Yet proving this theory faces formidable obstacles. The ethical constraints of human experimentation create a catch-22. The very tests needed to identify these precancerous cells could potentially harm patients or accelerate the cancer's development. Animal models, while useful, may not accurately reflect the human experience, and the timeframes involved push the limits of practicality. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of cancer, we're confronted with the possibility that our bodies harbor countless potential malignancies, like microscopic landmines scattered throughout our tissues. It's a sobering reminder of our vulnerability and the complex, often frightening, nature of the war against cancer.
This theory, if proven, could revolutionize our approach to cancer treatment and follow-up care. It suggests that true victory over cancer might require not just eliminating visible tumors, but also finding ways to neutralize these precancerous cells or prevent them from completing their malignant transformation.
Story 25.
Imagine lying on an operating table, fully conscious and aware of every excruciating moment of a surgery, yet completely unable to move or communicate your distress. This nightmare scenario was the reality for countless patients in the early days of anesthesia, particularly children who fell victim to a catastrophic misunderstanding of how certain drugs worked. The culprit in many of these cases was curare, a powerful muscle relaxant derived from South American plants. When first introduced to Western medicine, it was hailed as a revolutionary anesthetic. In reality, it was a chemical straitjacket, paralyzing patients but leaving their minds terrifyingly alert.
Picture a child, wide-eyed with terror, feeling every cut of the scalpel, every stitch of the suture, yet unable to scream or even blink. The psychological trauma of such an experience is almost unimaginable. Yet when these children later recounted their ordeals, their pleas fell on deaf ears. Medical professionals, confident in their understanding of the drugs, dismissed these accounts as impossible hallucinations or confabulations. It took the harrowing testimony of a doctor's child, able to recount in excruciating detail every moment of their surgery, to finally shatter this dangerous illusion. But how many patients suffered in silent agony before this revelation?
The horror doesn't end there. Even some modern anesthetics don't truly eliminate pain, they simply erase the memory of it. This raises profound questions about the nature of suffering. If a patient experiences intense pain during surgery but has no recollection of it afterward, did they truly suffer? And more disturbingly, could this hidden trauma leave lasting psychological scars, even without conscious memory?
The ultimate vindication of these silent sufferers came when a brave doctor subjected himself to curare, experiencing firsthand the terror of being fully conscious yet completely paralyzed during a simulated procedure. His chilling confirmation, "I could feel everything," finally forced the medical community to confront this dark chapter in anesthesiology.
Story 26.
The Earth's climate system is a delicate ballet of heat and water, orchestrated by a phenomenon few people outside scientific circles fully appreciate: the meridional overturning circulation MOC. This global conveyor belt of ocean currents is the hidden puppeteer of our planet's climate, and it's showing signs of unraveling. Imagine the world's oceans as a vast, three-dimensional highway system. Near the poles, particularly in the North Atlantic and around Antarctica, something extraordinary happens. Here, water becomes so cold and salty that it sinks, plummeting to the ocean floor like a watery avalanche. This deep, dense water then creeps along the ocean bottom, slowly rising back to the surface in places like the Indian Ocean and subtropical Pacific. This circulation isn't just moving water, it's transporting heat on a colossal scale. The oceans hold vastly more heat than our atmosphere, and this conveyor belt is what distributes that warmth around the globe. It's the reason why Western Europe enjoys milder winters than other regions at similar latitudes. It regulates global weather patterns, influences the carbon cycle, and helps maintain the delicate balance of our climate. But this vital system is under threat, and the culprit is the very ice that helps drive it. As global temperatures rise, the Greenland ice sheet is melting at an alarming rate. This influx of fresh water into the North Atlantic is like pouring sugar into a perfect cup of espresso. It's disrupting the delicate balance of salinity that drives the formation of deep water. Without this dense, salty water sinking in the North Atlantic, the entire conveyor belt could grind to a halt. The consequences would be catastrophic. The Gulf Stream, which brings warm water from the tropics to the North Atlantic, could weaken or shift. Western Europe could plunge into a paradoxical deep freeze even as global temperatures rise. Weather patterns worldwide would be thrown into chaos. But the nightmare doesn't end there. A slowdown in ocean circulation could lead to a buildup of heat in the tropics, potentially supercharging hurricanes and typhoons. It could disrupt global rainfall patterns, leading to widespread droughts in some areas and flooding in others. Marine ecosystems, already stressed by warming and acidification, could face collapse as nutrient-rich deep waters cease to rise. The truly terrifying aspect of this scenario is its potential for rapid onset. While many climate change impacts unfold over decades or centuries, changes in ocean circulation can happen relatively quickly, potentially within a human lifetime. And once set in motion, they could be difficult or impossible to reverse. As the ice continues to melt and the oceans warm, we're conducting a dangerous experiment with Earth's climate system. We're pulling at threads in a tapestry we don't fully understand, risking the unraveling of the very mechanisms that make our planet habitable. The next time you feel a cool breeze on a summer day or watch waves lapping at a shore, remember, you're witnessing the visible effects of an invisible global system that's fighting for its life, and our fate is inextricably tied to its survival.
Story 27.
The human body is a marvel of biological engineering, but it's also frighteningly fragile. Two diseases, scurvy and leprosy, reveal just how precarious our existence truly is and how easily our bodies can betray us. Let's start with scurvy, a condition most of us associate with pirates and long sea voyages. But the reality of this vitamin C deficiency is far more terrifying than any swashbuckling tale. Imagine your body literally coming apart at the seams, old wounds reopening as if by some gruesome magic. The horror of scurvy lies in its ability to reverse the healing process. Scar tissue, those badges of survival we carry from past injuries and surgeries, isn't as permanent as we'd like to believe. It's in a constant state of renewal, and vitamin C is the crucial element that holds it all together. Without it, your body begins to unravel. Picture this: a person who's battled cancer, their body a roadmap of surgical scars, suddenly finds those internal incisions reopening. or someone who survived a major car crash sees their healed fractures start to separate. It's a nightmare scenario where your own history of survival turns against you. But the true insidiousness of scurvy is its stealth. In our modern world of fortified foods, it seems almost impossible to develop. Yet, as one unfortunate soul discovered, even a simple medication interaction can plunge you into this nightmare, leaving doctors baffled as your body mysteriously falls apart from the inside out. Now, let's turn to leprosy, a disease shrouded in millennia of misunderstanding and fear. The popular image of lepers with missing fingers and toes isn't entirely wrong, but the mechanism behind it is far more disturbing than simple rot. Leprosy doesn't make your digits fall off, it makes you destroy them yourself. The bacteria responsible for the disease attacks your peripheral nerves, slowly robbing you of sensation in your extremities. It's a silent, creeping numbness that doesn't just dull pain, it eliminates it entirely. Without the crucial warning system of pain, a person with leprosy might unknowingly sustain injuries that fester and become infected. They could break a toe and continue walking on it, oblivious to the damage. They might grasp a hot pan without flinching, only to discover later the charred remains of their own fingers. This same terrifying process plays out in uncontrolled diabetes. The loss of sensation leads to unnoticed injuries. Infections spiral out of control, and before long, amputation becomes the only option. It's a stark reminder that pain, as unpleasant as it is, serves a vital purpose in protecting us. These diseases reveal a chilling truth. Our bodies are in a constant state of maintenance and repair, teetering on the edge of breakdown. The intricate systems that keep us whole can be disrupted by something as simple as a vitamin deficiency or a rogue bacterium. As you go about your day, feeling whole and intact, remember that this state is not guaranteed. Your body is engaged in a constant battle against forces that would literally tear you apart, relying on a delicate balance of nutrients and nerve signals to keep you in one piece. It's a sobering thought that should make you appreciate every moment of wholeness you experience.
Story 28.
The apocalypse isn't coming, it's already here, unfolding in slow motion before our very eyes. The terrifying reality is that we're living through one of the most catastrophic periods in Earth's history. And most of us are blissfully unaware of the devastation occurring all around us. Let's start with the very ground beneath our feet. Our topsoil, the lifeblood of terrestrial ecosystems and agriculture, is vanishing at an alarming rate. Within half a century, we may not have enough arable land to feed the global population. This isn't some far-off doomsday scenario. It's a countdown that's already begun.
But here's where it gets truly nightmarish. The very policies meant to protect our food supply are actually accelerating its demise. Government crop insurance programs, manipulated by powerful agribusiness lobbies, incentivize destructive farming practices while discouraging sustainable alternatives. We're quite literally paying farmers to destroy the land that feeds us.
As if that weren't enough, we're draining our underground water reserves at a terrifying pace. Aquifers that took millennia to fill are being sucked dry in mere decades. Once they're gone, they're gone. Imagine entire regions suddenly without water for drinking or agriculture. It's not just crops that will wither, entire cities could become uninhabitable. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're in the midst of what scientists call the Holocene extinction event, or, more accurately, the Anthropocene extinction. The impact of human activity on the planet is so profound that we've triggered a mass extinction event on par with the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Let that sink in for a moment. Our effect on the planet is comparable to a celestial body slamming into the Earth. We're not just losing a few species here and there, we're obliterating entire genetic lineages that have survived hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Each extinction is like burning down a library of unique genetic information that could hold the key to future medical breakthroughs or technological innovations.
The oceans, once teeming with life, are becoming acidic wastelands choked with plastic. Land animals are seeing their habitats shrink and fragment. Even the very composition of our atmosphere is changing at a rate unprecedented in Earth's history. What makes this extinction event truly terrifying is its speed and scope. Previous mass extinctions played out over thousands or millions of years. We're achieving the same level of destruction in mere centuries or even decades. The apocalypse isn't some future event we can prepare for. It's happening now, all around us. Every species that goes extinct, every acre of topsoil lost, every drop of aquifer water pumped out, it's all part of a global catastrophe unfolding in real time. And the most chilling part? Most people have no idea it's happening. We're so focused on our day-to-day lives that we're missing the bigger picture, the fact that we're dismantling the very systems that make our existence possible.
Story 29.
The world of medicine often treads a fine line between miracle and menace, and few substances embody this duality more perfectly than Botox. This cosmetic wonder, cherished by millions for its ability to smooth wrinkles and turn back the clock, harbors a dark secret. It's derived from one of the deadliest substances known to mankind. Botulinum toxin, the active ingredient in Botox, is produced by the bacterium Clostridium botulinum. This microscopic organism manufactures a poison so potent that it makes cyanide look like table salt in comparison. A single gram of this toxin, theoretically, could kill over 1 million people. It's a substance so lethal that it's been classified as a potential bioweapon. Yet, in a twist of scientific alchemy, this same lethal compound has been transformed into a therapeutic and cosmetic marvel. The toxin's ability to paralyze muscles is weaponized against wrinkles, essentially freezing them in place. But its applications go far beyond vanity. Consider the case of lazy eye syndrome. This condition, which causes one eye to drift aimlessly, was once treated primarily through invasive surgeries and exhausting eye exercises. Enter Botox, the deadly toxin turned medical savior. By strategically weakening certain eye muscles, it can correct the imbalance that causes the wandering eye, restoring normal vision and alignment. The story of a 16-year-old patient undergoing multiple surgeries only to find relief through carefully administered Botox injections is a testament to the toxin's transformative potential. 5 years later, with eyes perfectly aligned, this patient stands as living proof of how a substance capable of such harm can, in the right hands, bring about healing. But this miraculous transformation from poison to panacea comes with a chilling caveat. The margin for error is microscopic. In the hands of an unlicensed or inexperienced practitioner, Botox can still unleash its lethal potential. A miscalculation in dosage or injection site could lead to unintended muscle paralysis, potentially affecting breathing or swallowing. This duality of Botox, its capacity for both beautification and devastation, serves as a stark reminder of the power and responsibility inherent in medical science. We've taken one of nature's deadliest poisons and turned it into a tool for healing and cosmetic enhancement. It's a triumph of human ingenuity, but also a sobering reminder of how thin the line can be between remedy and ruin. The next time you see someone with a suspiciously smooth forehead, remember they're wearing a mask of one of the world's deadliest poisons, tamed by science but never truly domesticated. It's a beautiful face of modern medicine, but one that still holds the potential for unspeakable harm if misused.
Story 29.
The reality of cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, is far more grim and visceral than most people realize. It's a procedure often romanticized in media, portrayed as a near-miraculous life-saving technique, but the truth is both more brutal and more sobering. Let's start with the success rate. Most people, buoyed by optimistic portrayals in movies and TV shows, assume CPR works 75% of the time or more. The harsh reality? It's barely 10%. This stark statistic is one of the first things EMTs learn, a brutal awakening to the limits of what even the best trained professionals can achieve.
Time is the enemy in cardiac arrest. For every minute that passes without defibrillation, the chances of survival plummet by 10%. It's a race against a merciless clock, where seconds can mean the difference between life and death. The physical act of CPR itself is far from gentle. Proper chest compressions often sound and feel like you're breaking every rib in the patient's chest. The cracking and popping isn't just unsettling, it's downright horrifying. And sometimes you actually are breaking ribs. But as EMTs grimly remind themselves, they're already dead. A broken rib is better than no life at all. Even the seemingly simple act of rescue breaths is fraught with potential complications. One wrong move, and you're not inflating lungs. You're filling a stomach with air. The result? Violent vomiting. Imagine trying to save someone's life, only to have them projectile vomit with such force that their partially digested lunch comes out of your nose. It's a nightmare scenario that can turn life-saving efforts into a grotesque comedy of errors.
But perhaps the most chilling aspect of CPR is the psychological toll it takes on both professionals and bystanders. Imagine watching someone collapse, starting CPR, feeling ribs crack beneath your hands, seeing no response, and knowing that with each passing minute, the chances of survival are slipping away. It's a uniquely traumatic experience that can haunt a person for years.
Even when CPR is successful, meaning the heart starts beating again, it doesn't guarantee a happy ending. Many survivors suffer brain damage from the period of oxygen deprivation. A save, in medical terms, might still result in a patient who never regains consciousness or normal function.
The cruel irony is that despite its low success rate, immediate CPR is still crucial for giving a patient any chance at all. Yet many bystanders, paralyzed by fear or lack of confidence, hesitate to act. Security camera footage has captured people walking away from collapsed victims. Precious minutes ticking by before someone finally starts compressions. In the end, CPR is a brutal, often futile struggle against death itself. It's a procedure that forces us to confront the fragility of life and the limitations of our ability to preserve it. The next time you see someone performing CPR, remember you're witnessing a desperate, often doomed attempt to snatch a life back from the brink, with all the messy, horrifying reality that entails.
Story 30.
The hidden danger lurking in the pipes of historic Dutch homes is a chilling reminder that the comforts of modern life can sometimes mask insidious threats to our health. Lead poisoning, once thought to be a relic of the past, continues to silently stalk residents of these charming old buildings, with children being the most vulnerable victims. Imagine living in a picturesque canal house, its centuries-old facade a testament to Dutch architectural heritage. You drink from the tap without a second thought, cook your meals, and bathe your children using water that flows through the veins of your home. But with every sip, every meal, every bath, you could be ingesting a neurotoxin that accumulates in your body over time, wreaking havoc on your nervous system and cognitive functions.
The true horror lies in the invisibility of this threat. Lead pipes don't announce their presence. They don't change the taste, smell, or appearance of your water. You could be poisoning yourself and your family for years without ever realizing it.
What makes this situation particularly terrifying is the near impossibility of systematic detection. Water treatment companies, despite their best efforts, are essentially blind to the problem. They can't pinpoint which houses have lead pipes or how many are affected. The absence of accurate plumbing schematics in building plans leaves homeowners and authorities alike in the dark. Children, with their developing brains and bodies, face the gravest risk. Lead poisoning in children can lead to irreversible cognitive impairment, behavioral problems, and stunted growth. The cruel irony is that the very home meant to nurture and protect them could be silently sabotaging their future.
The insidious nature of lead poisoning means that by the time symptoms become apparent, significant damage may have already occurred. It's a slow-motion tragedy unfolding behind the walls of these historic homes.
For residents of these older Dutch houses, Every glass of water becomes a potential game of Russian roulette. The only way to ensure safety is through proactive testing and, if necessary, complete replacement of lead plumbing, a costly and disruptive process that many homeowners might be tempted to postpone or ignore.
Story 31.
The cosmetics industry harbors a disturbing secret that most consumers are blissfully unaware of. Behind the glossy advertisements and promises of natural, botanical-infused products lies a world of deception that borders on outright fraud. Imagine purchasing an expensive face cream seduced by claims of rare plant extracts and natural healing properties. You apply it religiously, believing you're nourishing your skin with nature's bounty. The reality, you might as well be slathering on plain water for all the good those natural ingredients are doing.
The truth, as revealed by an insider from a cosmetics plant, is far more sinister. Those miraculous plant extracts, they're often present in quantities so minuscule they might as well not exist at all. We're talking about proportions so absurdly small that they defy belief. Mere drops of a weak herbal tea in vats containing thousands of gallons of product. This practice isn't just disappointing, it's a calculated deception. Companies exploit loopholes in labeling laws to make grand claims about ingredients that are virtually non-existent in the final product. There's no minimum quantity required to list an ingredient, so manufacturers can include the tiniest, most inconsequential amount and still splash it across their packaging in bold letters. The process described is almost comical in its absurdity. Picture a massive 500-gallon vat, and into this goes a small bag of botanicals. After a brief steep, not even long enough to make a proper cup of tea, this watery concoction is then added to the main product. The end result, perhaps 2 or 3 drops of this ineffectual brew in each container of the final product.
What makes this particularly insidious is the selective regulation. While certain active ingredients like salicylic acid in dandruff shampoos are strictly controlled by the FDA, ensuring effective concentrations, the vast majority of cosmetic ingredients face no such scrutiny. This regulatory gap creates a wild west where companies can make outlandish claims with impunity.
The psychological manipulation at play here is profound. Consumers eager for natural solutions and swayed by the power of plant-based marketing are willing to pay premium prices for products that are, in essence, no different from their cheaper counterparts. It's a placebo effect writ large across an entire industry, with consumers' hopes and wallets being exploited in equal measure. This revelation should make us question everything we see on cosmetic labels. That exotic plant extract you're paying extra for? It might be nothing more than marketing smoke and mirrors. The next time you pick up a cosmetic product touting the benefits of rare botanicals, remember, you might be paying a premium price for nothing more than a few drops of glorified tea in a sea of basic ingredients. In an industry built on promises of beauty and well-being, the ugliest truth of all might be hiding in plain sight on the ingredient list.